Hello, everybody. Welcome to another streamcast of our Artista List with the Artisticon, which doesn't make any sense. Chris, you're getting the open. You're getting the cold open from now on. I have an incredible person with me today. His name is Piya. And as usual, you guys know I'm terrible with last names. We even practiced them, and I still get them wrong. And I feel like it's so offensive. And I'm sorry, Piya. I truly, truly am. So I'm going to bring up Piya. You can tell us how to say your last name. I'm a huge fan of this guy. He is incredibly generous and one of the nicest dudes you can find. A phenomenal artist and equally as good of a teacher. So everybody, meet Piya. There you go, Chris. All right. Yeah, I even had it. Yeah.
Or some artists do. Yeah, I just wanted to draw like a T-Rex ripping some other dinosaur's head off or something like that. I was just that was my thing, and so I spent my whole childhood drawing creatures, and it was like I was raised in the '80s, and I just remember I got the NES system, and back then the graphics were not good.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got the game was great, but the instruction booklet with the great
Oh
drawings of
yeah.
all the monsters, like I went on eBay and bought the Metroid game
Right.
manual like a few years ago, just because I wanted to see those monsters again. Like that's what I liked. Um, I liked bigger worlds. I found like today like contemporary world very boring. So I don't draw cars or buildings or people in suits or anything like that. I want monsters and swords and sorcery and things like that. It
Mm-hmm.
was just that kind of fantasy world.
Sure.
And sometimes people ask me like, what you don't like, the real world. It's like I like the real world fine. I'm not antisocial, but like I've never been into like Seinfeld or anything like that, just because it's just too everyday. And I don't have anything against the real world, but to me, like if you're in Germany, go to a beer garden. Don't go to the supermarket and buy Heineken. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about art. I've got this opportunity to go anywhere with my art.
Sure.
So I just want to go as far into the fantasy world as I possibly can. So that's what motivates a lot of what I do. It's just the subject
You
matter.
think it's a kind of an escape too? Like I know like a lot of people like superhero comics kind of
It's,
idealizes things for them, in a harsh world, so to speak.
I'm not sure if I want to call it escape. I want to call it aspirational.
Okay.
Because escape means like I don't want to be here, get me out.
Right.
You know what I mean? And these fantasy worlds I create, and yeah, they are fantasy, and they're out there in something like there's literally never gonna be a dinosaur in a spacesuit, as you just seen scrolling there.
Right.
But it's just like I just imagining being just in a bigger, more magical world that's lacking in the mundane stuff and just every day's an adventure and things like that. And you
Yeah.
can imagine living a life of adventure every day. It doesn't have to be like carrying a sword and like killing goblins every day, but like the idea of living your everyday life like it's an adventure,
Sure.
like it's wondrous, like it's magical. That's something to aspire to. I really do think so. And it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, even just it's in your head, I suppose. I mean, that's what art is, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it was Tolkien that said the thing he
Did
first
he? I had
imagined.
no idea. Okay.
humanity lost its sense of magic and its sense of adventure. So maybe there's something to that.
I'll take it. I'll take it. If I got something in common with Tolkien, I'll take it. So, yeah. Um,
So tell us some about your influences, like specific maybe artists that you had, like you mentioned Metroid. Did you know the
yeah.
artist? Like back when?
I've been thinking hard about influences, and like when I first got out of art school, like I decided, you know what, I definitely want to do fantasy. You know, even that I was 100% sure at the time. So I just, you know what, I was like, I went to the local bookstore. I just went to the D&D section. I've never played D&D in my life, still haven't, but I love the art in it, so I just
See,
pulled
I
it
was
out.
the same. I was the same way. Like my
Yeah,
friends
I
played
just
it, but I'm looking at the art and the books on the side.
I know, me too. I totally have a ton of I totally have a ton of D&D books just for the art.
Right.
I have the slightest clue about the game mechanics. Um, but I pulled out one that had a cover that I really liked. Of course, it had a dragon on it. Todd Lockwood, so he was one of my first influences. So, um, and he was very generous, by the way. I emailed him. This was like in 2005. Okay,
Okay.
I emailed him, just some guy out of the blue with a very unrecognizable name. I know the from line, whatever. And I sent him some of my work. You know, I was just about ready to graduate, and he wrote back within a day. And his email, seriously, if I printed it out, it would have been 5 pages long. Like
Wow.
very generous with his time. I was so thankful for that, you know. And I think like it gave me a taste of like the character in the community for the most part. I was very glad to see that that was, you know, a thing. So, you know, I still follow him, you know, I still love his work. But that being said, one thing I'm trying to more get away from is, again, no offense to Todd, I love him, but I'm trying to get away from digital artists who paint dragons.
Right.
For my
Oh,
influences.
understood.
Because I don't want to be super literal about who influences me, because I don't want to be a bad copy of Todd Lockwood.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe in, when I try to find influences, I try to, you know what lateral thinking is? You know, like cutting the Gordian knot kind of thing, that kind of like sideways thinking almost. So I'm trying to find artists whose work I really love, but it looks nothing like mine.
Okay.
And also the other thing about artists who I love is I want them to be good people. I get very disappointed when I hear about like an artist who I really like and they're completely mean. They're not nice people. They get incredibly arrogant, things like that. So my influences like tend to be a little more random. The one and only comic book artist I follow, well, two, okay, but one who I regularly get his comics is Usagi Yojimbo, Stan Sakai. Usagi Yojimbo is like black and white comic, actually just recently switched to color after like 26 years or something like that. A rabid samurai, very cartoony style. But the guy has been drawing the same bloody comic since 1984, 86. I mean, his character was a guest character in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the 80s that I saw when I was a kid. But I love his work. I love his heart. I love his consistency. His stories are amazing. They're self-consistent. It's a character I can relate to. The man's a good man. I met him right after, like, he had a hard, like, last couple of years, he had like some really tragic things happen. His grandson died unexpectedly, just stopped breathing. He was 2 years old. And then his wife passed away of a really nasty brain cancer or something like that. And it was a very hard time. And, but, you know, he was there for her. He was there for his family. He continued to produce. And I met him not long after she passed. And, you know, I told him, like, you know, my condolences. I'm so sorry, you know, and things like that. And he was very gracious, very generous. So people like that. James Gurney comes to mind also. Yeah, I mean, he's a little like less like lateral, I guess, because he does dinosaurs.
Yeah.
But and I loved his books when I was a kid. But you know, what made me really realize this guy's special is his blog.
Yes.
The generosity of his knowledge, just how much he loves what he does, and the iron discipline to update that blog every day.
Agreed.
I mean, if I keep my Instagram updated once a week, I feel like a winner. You know?
It's
He's
amazing.
always got something new and fresh, and every time you meet him, he's just so wanting to share art. He's never about himself,
Yeah.
ever. And I've been privileged enough to meet him like 3 or 4 times. Um, and by the way, his sketchbooks, if you ever get a chance to meet him and see his sketchbooks, like look at them in person, because you realize the gap between a digital photograph and the actual painting is just worlds apart. It's here to Pluto. It really is. Like it's one of those things that just like how does this thing exist? He breaks like laws of physics in his sketchbooks.
Yeah, he's a
Um,
genius. He's a
yes, he
yeah,
is.
artistic genius.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. When you went to, you said you went to art school, so were you doing a lot of art from childhood into high school, and then what did you pick art in your undergrad? Because I know you have your MFA from Academy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was an artist since I was very little. It was like what everyone knew me for. It just
Okay.
was. And I'll be honest, I didn't go to art school right away.
Okay.
Yeah, I hate bringing this up because I don't want to sound like I'm bitter or anything like that, but Asian family, I was going to be a doctor. Let's just leave it at that. So I went to Holy Cross, College of the Holy Cross, Worcester, Massachusetts, where Dr. Anthony Fauci went to, actually. And
Interesting.
I'm eager to point that out. Actually, his nephew, his cousin or nephew, was a classmate of mine. We called him Fauci too, actually.
Oh.
No, unbeknownst to us. But anyway, I was actually a bio major because I loved the animals.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to go pre-med. That didn't happen. I struggled. I absolutely struggled. Organic chemistry wiped me clean, and it was hard. It was not easy. My college years were not easy, and without revealing too much, basically I had like a near break. I basically did have a breakdown my junior year. I was luckily I just needed like a month off. I think I took a month off, and I salvaged my semester. I dropped 2 classes, dropped my bio major, and by the time I was already a double major with art. It's like all pretense of doctor, medicine, all that was out the window. Okay, and I was already started my art career. I mean, my art major, so let's go with that. And I was going to be behind. I was not going to graduate on time, so I went to SVA during the summer.
Okay.
I took a few matriculated classes to get my credits, to get myself back on track to graduate on time. And so I was able to graduate on time with my art degree. But it was like a degree from like a school that, didn't really focus on art.
Right.
So I knew I had to continue my education. I worked for a year in Manhattan, just law firm stuff, just make a bunch of money and, very high pay rates and 80 hours a week. So
Right.
a lot of overtime and no time to spend it all. So I made a ton of money that way. I was able to save it, and then was able to get into the Academy of Art, San Francisco. And I went there for 3 years, got my MFA there. So it was a little convoluted.
Well, that's not an uncommon tale. I hear this a lot. I mean, especially with ethnic families. Like I come from Greek background, and very similar. They want their children doctors, lawyers, professional fields. I mean, I was one of the few, if any, at the time, artists, going to art school. So, that is I think it's in their mind, it's security.
Yeah.
I fortunately had very supportive parents, and my father wanted to be a naval architect, and his father forced him to go to University of Athens to study law. So he and his father had a falling out, and that's how he came to America. And so, these stories do happen, but I think that there's reasons for that, and that's our path. So, sometimes we have to really struggle to find our true path. So, and you're stronger for it. So, but thank you for sharing that. And I think that might reach out to some people, that view this saying, well, my family wants this, or, this is what I'm expected. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you just I know I could never be a doctor. I'm not wired that way. I'm too empathetic. I'd be going home, taking all the emotional baggage home, crying every night over seeing patients.
I couldn't even make the grades, literally. Grades. So.
I don't think I do good in organic chemistry either. So. But Okay, so you went to San Francisco. Tell us about your time there, and how did it make you feel coming out of this other college and then going there? And was it eye opening? Was it completely different the experience? And
It was.
yeah,
It was. First of all, like I grew up in like Irish Catholic Yonkers, New York,
uh-huh.
so suddenly there was a lot more Asian people everywhere. It's like this is interesting, and that was totally new for me. Um, California was they really are more relaxed. I think
Yeah,
also I was working at a law firm in Manhattan,
hmm,
so I was a wound up ball of stress.
gotcha.
So I think those 3 years actually chilled me out a lot,
Yeah,
and like I learned a lot about how to freaking about something doesn't make it go away unless the
right.
freak out makes you be proactive. But like just losing your mind, just it started teaching me the futility of it. Mostly because I had some good friends who who had a more better, more mature grasp on it. So
Hmm.
they demonstrate both by them demonstrating it and them heckling me to death about it,
Hmm.
like taught me, you know. I love being there. I love my teachers. Chuck Pyle, Lisa Barrett, Sherry Sinclair, um, James Wu. Oh my God, that guy. That guy. I had a near mental breakdown my first week with that guy, and he made me really good though. So he just,
Great.
yeah, and there were some really great teachers, great experience, great time. I miss that school a lot. I wish I didn't live across the world from them, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's hop
So
over real
Was
quick.
your
You
plan to
mentioned,
stay out
hey
there or
Chris,
always come back?
Chris,
Oh, sorry,
while we're
Sean.
still
Go
on
ahead.
topic, let's go ahead and let's pop over and let's see if we can find a couple of these guys. I mean, when you say something like, "Whoa, this guy made me good," I want to see who you're talking about. So, spell his name for me, Pia.
Charles Pyle, Chuck Pyle.
Oh, I know
Honestly,
Chuck,
I don't.
but
Well,
Yeah. I mean, I mostly look at his art through like his Facebook page, and
yeah,
things like that. He,
Chuck actually recommended Carl, highly endorsed Carl Potts. I had met Carl before for the first Artisticon, but yeah, he was, and actually Carl said, reach out to Chuck. Yeah, very nice man.
yeah,
we found his
uh,
blog spot here. I'll bring it up for you guys.
sounds good.
You can see some of his
Yeah,
figurative work here.
yeah,
Oh,
that's
this
like
one's
what he
really
taught
good.
in class.
Yeah,
Yes, the good
that's
old
awesome.
days.
Look at that. Whew,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
huge influence by Norman. He was massively influenced by Norman Rockwell.
I see a lot
You
of
know,
Leighton in him, though. I mean, some of his drawing and some of his stylistic manners are very sort of Leighton-esque. Wow, this guy is, man, his grasp of structure and is amazing. Wow. All right. All
good
right.
man.
I'm gonna bring up the other
Worst
guy,
jokes
James Wu.
ever. He was the king of dad jokes.
Well, it's a skill you
We're
develop
all
as you
there
get older
now.
with kids. So tell me about this other guy real quick, and then we're gonna go right back to you.
Geez,
James
James
Wu.
Wu.
James Wu. Oh yeah, James Wu. Still just goes by Jian Wu, Jian, or James Wu. Um, if you ever go to the New York Society of Illustrators student show, and you see like people doing portraits where people are making silly faces
Hmm.
in pastel, that's him. And
Oh,
there's a few of those every year. I mean, every year, like since I graduated in 2005, I'm sure they're still going
Is this
to
the
this day.
gentleman?
No, I don't think that's him.
Oh, see,
No.
it's always a danger when going live like that. This guy's actually really good. The James Wu that I have here, but I'm trying to. Oh, Jian Wu. Oh, okay. I have him. Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can see some.
I hate to say it, but that guy looked way too friendly.
Is this who we're looking at?
I think
Yeah, this guy's
wow.
solid. The other artist, by the way, is quite good too. But let's go. I just want to quickly look at some of his work. It's very dynamic. Oh, wow. I see how you said he was down on the West Coast, right?
Honestly, I'm not even sure if that's him. I hate to be honest. I hate to tell you that because
Yeah.
I know he does portraiture. Let me see the portraits. If there's portrait. Oh, that is him. That is him. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to be sure.
Oh yeah, his stuff is so dynamic and fun. Oh,
Yeah.
I love it.
He teaches he taught me portraiture, so I'm like looking at these like more illustrative or even landscaping. It's like yes, that's what I remember.
Yeah. Wow. So,
So
all these
I'm
guys.
actually trying to impress him every week.
I think that's the point where you just do the best you can. You just say, "Well,
Yeah.
F it. What happens, happens. I'll just be in competition with myself."
Well, basically with him, he basically ripped me a new one within like the first 2 weeks. And basically I swore to myself that I would make him say something different to me at the end of the semester. That's what I said. He's not gonna say that again to me again. And I'll tell you what happened. Like final grade time, like he said, you got a B plus. You got a lot better.
Oh, great.
Like that's all I needed. That's all I needed. Like
Yeah.
I needed that,
So. jwstudio.net. jwstudio.net. If anyone wants to look at his stuff. I mean, that's pretty high praise. I mean, when another artist is saying, "Hey, man, this guy changed my life," that's a big deal.
So
that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. I appreciate that a whole bunch. Learned about somebody new today.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your family? Like you're a newer dad. He's 1 year old, his son, and you're married, and your wife's an illustrator. So tell us a little bit.
Well, so my wife Christina is also an artist. I actually met her through Illustration Friday, of all ways. We both shared our work to to the site, and then I just found her sketch, totally nothing like mine at all, and I linked to her blog because this is back in like 2008, 2009, so blogs are still a thing, and basically we just started leaving comments on each other's blogs, and then of course I Facebook stalked her eventually, yeah, and then we went ahead and started talking over Facebook, things like that, and then just so happened, this is one of those things I swear it's divine. Intervention here. Like just the day I contacted her, we were talking over like Facebook Messenger or what it was at the time. Just like in 5 weeks, she was going to be in New York City because she's in Rochester, New York,
right,
like 6 hours north of where I lived. But she just happened to have an alumni event in New York City. She went to school in Florida.
Oh, really?
So what are they doing with an event in New York City? I don't know. It was like, you know what? I won't even argue with it. I'm just like, fine, I'll take it. I said, let's meet up, asked for her number. And so, I was working a full-time job at the time, and we were meeting like on a Tuesday.
Right.
And I was living with my parents at the time. And let me just tell you a quick story, though. A few weeks before that, I met with a friend of mine in New York City at like a Wednesday, and he kept me out till 2, 3 in the morning, right? And like I got home, and my dad was still awake, and my dad being my dad, he ripped me a new one for that one, for being late and missing, and because he thought I was gonna get fired from my job because I was gonna be asleep, things like that. And so there was that, and then so I tell Christina I want to meet with her, and so I don't tell my parents because I don't want to jinx anything. I just I'll just meet with Greg. I said I was gonna meet the same guy who kept me out. And I was like, oh, what time are you gonna be home? Oh, 10 or 11. I didn't want to make him mad. I thought I was gonna be home by then. We stayed out till 2 or 3 in the morning again. And then the next day, my dad was like, how was your night? He wasn't mad at all.
Okay.
Like he must have known something. I don't know.
That's funny.
Yeah, and it was good. And then she went back to Rochester. I went to visit her for New Year's because that was November, so New Year's was coming up. And yeah, we just decided we were dating. We went long distance for 2 years before she moved down. And then we were like together when she moved down another 2 years. Then we got married. And we just had our son, Elliot. He's 1 year old. He's a 1 year old now.
Congratulations.
His name is Elliot Rex. Elliot after Pete's Dragon, and Rex because I had to include a dinosaur name in there somewhere. So yeah. And actually, I do want to mention something about relationships, things like that. And I just want to make sure, just in case there's somebody in school right now who might hear this. If you're in school and you want to be an artist and you're working hard and you also want to someday have a family, never let anyone guilt trip you because you want to meet someone and eventually get married and things like that. Okay, you're not any less of an artist because I don't know, I'm not sure. I think people had their hearts in the right place when they gave this advice, but people said if you want to be a great artist, you want to make a living, you have to work on your craft 10 hours a day, 6 days a week for the 5 years straight. You can't do that. You can't, you need to have like, and what happens if you are working? What happens if you're supporting other family? What if you have sick
Yeah,
parents? It's like that,
absolutely. Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I mean,
Life
if
is
you can,
life.
yeah, if you can do that, you're very privileged. But never ever like let someone guilt trip you because you also want to be a normal human being. And that's very important to me because part of why my family was a little reluctant, about, well, not crazy about me being an artist at first, because their image of artists, and it still is pretty popular to be fair, is that we're all a bunch of crazies, you know, who aren't normal, who are like are always like hopped up on something and like live in the city and like, I don't know. And I
Yeah,
just wanted to,
paint pretty pictures and walk barefoot.
yeah, and like swear like every other word is the F word. And
Yeah,
I really wanted to live my life so that an artist was a professional with a decent family life. I think just,
right.
you can have it all.
Yeah,
You can have it all. You don't have to give up the good things in life.
and
Having,
you're living example. I mean,
yeah,
you're
that's
doing
that's,
freelance and you're a teacher at a major art school. So, I mean, you're living that example right now. And tell us, how did you, I mean, did you always want to teach, or is it something that like after this instructor did what he did that say, you know what, now I'm on my path and then one day I want to give back too. And you also said
I,
about Todd Lockwood. I mean, that's a early sign of mentorship there. Back in a time when I don't think, it was a little more remote. We didn't have the internet as strong and, Zoom and all this. And, I think there's been such a global viewing of how much is going on now. And people connect in Facebook groups and these type of things. But I think when we were younger, I'm 50 now, but it was very like the notion of seeing one of these artists at a conference, or it was like very, unless they spent $1,000, went out to Icon or something, it wasn't going to happen. There just was no communication. So just curious how you, perceived yourself as, I'm going into teaching because you know, you're saying you wanted to have it all, and I think that might be part of it too.
yeah, that I guess that is being an artist is it's not an easy life, but ease is not the goal of life.
Right.
Okay. Achievement, not even achievement, but fulfillment, I think.
Fulfillment.
Fulfilling your given role in life, whatever you might choose for yourself. And one thing I believe is that to be an art student, to decide I'm going to go to art school is an act of courage,
Hmm.
in my opinion. Okay. In this world, um, artists are artists are more than a little undervalued in this world.
Especially in this country.
Yes. If you ever read Harry Potter, I feel like we're the house elves. Like we get a lot of work done and no one knows who we are. You know
Right?
what I mean?
Art informs everything that we do in our lives. Everything. Billboard, car design, Netflix, the way
Yeah.
your DVR
Oh,
looks, you name it, your phone, the designs, everything. Back to you. Art
yeah.
is everywhere.
Yeah. So, well, I always want to tell people who doubt, like, raise your kids without children's books, movies, or video games. Have
Yeah.
fun. Have fun. Yeah. Like, if you're not breathing hard, like, you don't know what parenting is. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I want to support those kids as much as possible. And I think, like, just from like when I worked a full time job, when I was like training people, like, I had a little bit of a knack of explaining how to do something.
Hmm.
So, so I figured, okay, let me just try it. So I just got a job at Mercy College teaching. I just randomly emailed the director. I found the director of the department at Mercy College. I just sent him an email, and email said basically, "My name is Piya. I'm a digital artist, and you want to teach your kids your students digital, and you want to hire me to do it." And he said yes.
That's awesome.
So, but that was basically the tone, not the words, but the tone. And I found that I had an knack for explaining it in a way that was very understandable, very relatable. I don't use a lot of big soundy words. I only teach like the words like chiaroscuro and grisaille because I have to because it's part of the curriculum. And every time I say grisaille, I'm just like, it's fancy Italian for gray and white.
I'm coming
Brown
back to
and white.
this. I'm just letting you know I'm coming back to this. I don't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation too much, but at the end, I'm coming back to talk about nomenclature and specific verbology with the intent of creating a language that is universal, ubiquitous. Yep, I'm using those big words across,
I'm impressed you came up with that on the spot.
So I'm coming back
for an hour.
I've spent a lot of time building my curriculum, thinking about this sort of thing, and I will come back and talk to you about it at the end.
Okay.
Let me ask you this: so you went to teach digital. Well, did you find that when you were in art school it was more traditional, and then you kind of branched into digital? So when I was in art school, digital was nothing. It was like Apple Quadras with graphic designers, maybe using a little bit. I kind of jumped on the early bandwagon of digital with Photoshop. God, it was 2.0. There were no layers. And then I got into Corel Painter and stuck with that and really taught myself. And I mean, the kids of today have such digital tools to their their tool set. And they're also taught how to, think in a traditional manner using these tools. That was not the case. I kind of had to teach myself all over again. Do you find that you look at it as a tool? Do you look at it? Yeah, okay. Go ahead. I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I did not learn digital until after I was out of art school, actually.
Right.
I learned a little bit of Photoshop. I already knew how to do a little bit of it, but really learning to a professional level, I signed on with Schoolism.
You told me you were one of his first students, right?
I was number one.
Number one.
Just by luck of timing, because I found his work like seriously the week before New York Comic Con that year, which I think was 2008, back when New York Comic Con was actually like breathable and walkable.
Yeah, it was like
insane.
A third of the Javits.
Yeah, and I met Bobby because I found his work. I think I was looking up samurai art at the time, and I found him and found some samurai art from him. And then he just happened to be New York Comic Con, so I knew to look for him. And I was just discussing with him. I was like, I love your samurai art. And then we were talking, and I said I wanted to learn more about digital. It's like, oh, we just opened a school. And seriously, the night before, he had activated schoolism.com.
That's crazy.
So that night, I went home, and I signed up for the class. It was only $700 at the time.
Wow.
And the next morning, I came back to New York Comic Con. He's like, thanks for the sign up. You're the first one. So it's like, wow.
What was the class? It was like intro to something?
Intro to digital painting. It was Bobby's digital painting class. Yeah.
So what were you using back then? What was he teaching with? Photoshop?
Yeah, it was Photoshop. Yeah.
Photoshop. Okay.
Yes, it wasn't that long ago.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it was, because Corel Painter gets a bashing a lot. It's like, I gave up on Corel. I still use it. I mean, gave up on Corel. I can't get used to it. So I just was curious what they were using at the time.
Yeah, no, I tried.
And now he's got Lightbox and virtual Lightbox coming up.
I know. Yeah, he's gone very far.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I mean, sometimes we look back and we say, what is our? Yeah, this was a big thing when I was in art school. It's like, oh, I got to come up with a style. Oh, I got to come up with a style. But was one teacher that told us, and I always reiterate this, that technique and style are two different things. Technique is how you employ a tool, and whether it be traditional or digital at this point. And your style is something that's lifelong. You're building your style through your entire career, and artists may have a certain style that is very signature, and sometimes they may completely go 180 and go the other way. So, it's really something that proves that we're constantly students and that we're constantly learning. And to say after 4 years of art school, okay, go out there and make your way, there's that notion of, well, wait a minute, I'm still a student. I gotta still keep learning. And as a teacher too, I'm sure you're learning from your students, and then learning from them is when they become professionals. So,
yes, yeah, I mean that's the most important lesson we try. Like, I really want to teach. It's kind of funny being a student. I felt like student classes for so long. As a teacher, I was like, you're only giving me 14 weeks to teach all this?
Mm-hmm.
Like that, then I only meet once a week, like 14, 15 times, that's it?
Yeah.
And you want me to teach what? It was like, this is insane. Yeah. Well, I can tell you for me, I think I was lucky. Like my teachers were able to teach it. Well, basically, what they taught me was style was a little on the overrated side.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really pay much attention to it. Um, I guess I just wanted to make sure I was technically sound, and
Professional, sure.
let everything else kind of go wherever it'll go, and just kind of let that be its own thing. I don't know. I talked to yes, my wife just brought the baby by.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Hey,
I was
Elliot.
lucky enough actually. I had my this is the wonderful thing about being an artist. By the way, you meet your heroes really easily. I had my portfolio reviewed by Mike Mignola. You know,
yeah,
the Hellboy creator.
absolutely.
And he was
One of
talking
my
about
favorites.
style too. And he's like, style just forms because you have been painting for a long time and you keep having new problems thrown your direction. And how you answer those problems is your style.
Yeah.
So
It's a
that's
series
what he
of
taught me.
conscious
Yeah, style
and
is mindset,
unconscious,
too.
unconscious decisions. Some of you have control over, some of it you don't. Right?
Yeah.
You can control the way you walk, but if one leg is bigger than the other, you're going to walk a little funny no matter what you do. And I walk a little funny because I do have one leg bigger than the other, so not picking on anybody.
Learned something new about you today.
Well, let's get to some of his work. Let's bring up his first piece here, Sean. We've talked so much about his background. Let's see what actually the work put in practice. So tell us about this
Chris,
piece
let me
and
interject
like where
real quick.
What's that?
One second. The problems with trying to do Skype interviews, right, is like you start talking and there's just a teeny bit of a delay, so it's kind of hard, and then you got to interrupt. And sorry about that, guys. Look, so hey everybody, we're trying something new. Now I'm not going to bring it up unless we actually get a couple of texts. But the way it works is if you text Artisticon on Skype, so ARTISTACON, just like our name. I don't have the logo up right now. In a little bit, we will set it up and Piya can take calls. So maybe if you have a question, maybe you just want to ask him about colleges, or maybe you just want to find out what his favorite food is. It'd be exciting to give it a try today. It's brand new. Could fail miserably. I don't think it will. But let's see if we can get a couple people to buzz in. And if not, we'll try next time. All right.
Okay.
Back to the work.
Sounds good. So tell us about this piece. Also, it's, where the concept, execution, and when the client.
Oh, this piece. I've been working my dragon calendar for a few years by this time. So I've been doing a dragon calendar for Llewellyn Worldwide since my first year was 2017, though I finished in 2015. Give you an idea of the time lag. And so by the time I'd done like 3 or 4 calendars, so that each one is like 12 dragons per calendar. So you do the math.
Sure.
There's a lot of them. And I just realized, I was looking at the body of work I created for them. I was like, I don't have one bloody like knight versus dragon painting.
Oh, really?
Not
just dragon.
I do a St. George type thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's like, okay, I'll just do it now. So yeah, I mean, how that composition came out, I just remember I was sketching very loosely on my iPad. I remember I had gotten the Smog design book when the Hobbit movies came out. There was a book. If you look at the Hobbit movies, like the art of the Hobbit, there's nothing about Smog. There's nothing in the books. And then they released a book entirely on Smog. Just all the art that went to his creation. He got his own art book. And one thing they said was they decided to give him like only a pair of wings and legs. Some people do like wings, and 4 legs. And they said the reason why we decided to do that, it you can get more of a expressiveness, because you and I, we talk with our hands. And so, if you have like a dragon with wings and 4 legs, it looks like a dog with funny cape. Whereas where you only give it like the wings and the legs, then the wings with hands become the expressive hands, and you can give a story and a language, things like that. You can have the dragon emote and express with hands the way humans do. It's much more relatable. Right. So I really want the hands of the dragon to have some sort of impact. So you can see here they're really trying to frame the head as much as possible with the hands there. Let's see, the woods, the trees in the background, that's from England. There's if you Google like Wistman's Woods, that's what those trees are. You type in Wisman's Woods and look up Google photos of Wisman's Woods. You swear you were in Fangorn Forest. Really do. Like it looks like every creepy haunted forest you've ever seen. The trees are very knotty. There's moss and lichen undergrowth everywhere. There's not like one exposed rock. There's lichen everywhere. It's very otherworldly. The night, I swore I was going to try to make sure that the night was like unique. And of course, I ended up doing a Games Workshop Bertonian night because I forgot to tell you, Games Workshop was a huge influence on my teen years.
Okay.
So I have a lot of the original game army books and codexes from like 1990s. I still have them. They're right there, you know. Okay. So just because that gaming system, I never really played it that much, but that game system had that same big epic feel that I've always liked in art. So,
Mike, I have a question for you. When composing a piece like this or any of the calendar pieces, working with the art director, creative director, how many stages are you showing them? Like thumbnail, rough comp to finish, or do they know you well enough to say, here's my composition, here's a quick color?
It gets pretty organic after a while. But in the beginning, it was definitely a lot of thumbnails. I honestly how I did it every year changes, but basically the first year I just gave them so many thumbnails. I think I gave them like 50 thumbnails.
Yeah.
Picked a dozen out of that, and then I sent them color studies, and they picked one out of that, and then I just sent them final. That's it.
Yeah. The reason I bring that up, and it's more for our listeners, is because we had just interviewed Dave Palumbo about his new Marvel series, and I really never took notice before, but like a lot of artists like yourself, a lot of the color studies are almost like close to finish. So when he says when he's doing the finish, it's almost like it goes really quick because he's already figured out everything value in the rough comp. So that's something for artists listening. Don't feel like you got to put. It's really more putting it into the process, I think, to get to the finish. You should have everything figured out, and then when you're on your finish, especially for deadline, you're not saying, "Oh my God, what do I do now?" You kind of already have a blueprint. Yep.
That's exactly it. All the hard lifting, all the hard thinking should be done by the time you go to final. It should be. Yeah. I mean, Greg Manchester said it best. Art is thinking on paper. I mean, that's one of the hardest things to teach students is to take thumbnailing very seriously. It really is.
Great, these covers. I love the purple one to the far right.
I think that's 2020.
Yeah, that's great.
That's probably one of my favorite ones that I've done in the series. That was I did it in 2019, early 2019. So I think I felt a lot more on my game for that one. So it was my.
There's a big word I think for this palette, right? There's a big art.
That's
word.
what I was going to ask.
What's the big art word? Isn't it split complementaries?
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
That's a split complementary.
That's good. No, I just had to give you a hard time. I'm probably not going to let this go.
Yeah, so I ended up I wanted this one to be purple. My wife's favorite color is purple. Our wedding colors were purple, so I definitely wanted purple in there.
When working in your sketches and your comps, how are you working with light sources? Are you dealing more with photographic reference? Are you setting up little models of like maybe something? Like how do you get your values worked out? Because you seem to have a great sense of light source, and I just want to know how you keep it consistent.
Thanks. I have a lot of doubt sometimes with that. When I'm very good, I set up the models. I do. I do. I'll admit I'm a lot less disciplined about it than I really want to be. I don't always do models. I try to, at the very least, I'm also posing, things like that, as much as possible. Things like that. And models sometimes, one thing I learned about models is they can be really, really, really crude and rough. Like they basically need to hold themselves together for you to photograph them. And they're not worthy of being shown, they're not sculptures. They're not worth the word sculpture. There's something that's kind of crudely smashed together that sort of gives you the idea of the lighting scheme you want. And, that's really it.
And something also for viewers who are watching, because I think we mentioned this in a couple other, there's a big notion, or I don't say notion, there's a big movement in a lot of book covers and even calendars and movie posters where they kind of just photo bash things together and kind of lay filters and painterly brushes over. That's completely different than what's happening here. I just want to reiterate that, this is illustration. I mean, this is from concept to completion. You're not, you might be photo bashing in the sense of compositing photos that you have researched, but not to use for the final piece. And, because I see a lot of people when I was going into video game stores with my son, wow, look at this painting. And you could tell it was not a painting. It was a photograph, or like they try to mimic Drew Struzan and the movie posters of today. And it's really just layering on top of a photo. Not that I'm saying it's not done well, and it's not, but there is an art to it too. And then there's like guys like Dave Seeley, where he actually is proficient enough to paint, but uses the photo compositing. But that's something for a whole other discussion. But like for this piece here, what's the concept, and how did you come about your sources?
Well, this was for a client. Now, do you have the Tyrannosaurus one, actually? Because I want to talk about, because that's where it started. Not that one. There was another one. You might not have it then. Don't worry about it. Basically, what happened was, let's go back to that one. What happened was, I started this like back in 2012. It wasn't not this painting, but I did a Tyrannosaurus in a spacesuit back in 2012. It's still on my website somewhere, I think. And I did it just because I wasn't as busy at the time, and I really wanted to try something new. So I had this concept of, as I mentioned, like, dinosaurs were something that was big for me. Okay. And just in general, the sciences. I mean, I was a bio major because I did like the sciences a lot. And I was thinking to myself, well, how would I produce a piece of art that combines the sciences that capture kids' imaginations the most? Space and dinosaurs. Let's just smash those two together and see what happens. And so I did a T-Rex in a spacesuit. So that was the first one. And, it was fun and everything like that. And it's occasionally up on my Etsy store, things like that. But I didn't think much of it. And what happened was, a few years later, I met my licensor, and he said, that's it. He set me up with Ravensburger, the puzzle company.
Oh, cool.
And they saw the T-Rex and that we want that. And actually, if you look at it now, this is actually a lot more colorful. That galaxy wasn't back there. Back in the day, it was like a lot duller. And they said, we want this. This is going to be great for kids, but we want more. So those other two that you see, the Triceratops and the Brachiosaurus / Giraffatitan, we changed the name a few years ago. That's part of the series. So it was just for fun for me. Yeah. And then they were like, we want two more of those. We want a trilogy. Great. And then you see the other one that's like all three. That was another one they wanted. It was a bigger puzzle. They wanted more than one. So I did that. So this is a fairly new piece. I barely even shared it so far, to be honest with you. So
you coming out fossil hunting with me, Piya?
I'm sorry?
Said you coming out fossil hunting with me? I'll get you out fossil hunting. Fossil hunting.
He goes fossil hunting.
Oh, fossil hunting. Yes, I've done that. I would do it again.
Yeah, Sean's into that quite a bit.
Okay. I totally would. Yeah, but I'm working on some more of those right now. Actually, that's a new thing for me. Also, this new piece was also another opportunity for me because I got indulged in like painting space, which was something I'd never done before. And you can see here it's super colorful, and I just want to take advantage of like, NASA releases those super beautiful like space photographs, and they're not real in like if you were out in space and looking at them, you would see them those colors, but they are real in a way in that NASA assigns colors to specific elements so that when you look at it, okay, that's a stream of oxygen, that's a stream of methane, that's a stream of carbon, etc. So is colors that give information. So it's not just made up, but it just gave me this opportunity that I'd never had before, and to try to look at space in something new. So that's why all the colors, things like that.
This would make a great children's book. I mean,
it's going to be a puzzle next year.
I totally agree. I think
they're making out like bandits right now during this pandemic. Like they're totally sold out of everything.
Oh wow! Well, that's true. People are doing puzzles now.
Yeah, no, they have problems with vendors price gouging their puzzles.
Oh, geez.
Because it's not something that would save a life. It's not like hand sanitizer or masks. You know what I mean? but it saves people's sanity, so they jack it
I
up
was
to
going
like
to say that's a way to
yeah.
save a life if you're not going insane doing something fun.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
doing great. I'm doing still some more work for them right now, actually. So been
All right.
work this.
So let's get back to art school. Like, what advice? Like you said, it's a leap of faith to go to art school these days. But do you see a combination of art school and online training a good option? I mean, we're all pretty much, I know you said more is going to be in a hybrid, but do you see where do you see art school in the future? Where do you see online training? Do you think it's just going to become one big conglomerate of type of
Oh,
entity, or and where
I
do you see yourself in that equation? Do you want to be teaching more, teaching less? And what is your hopes?
well, oh my goodness, I hope Moore never hears this. um, so I mean, I like teaching. I'm not sure how much longer I can keep up adjunct. To be really honest with you, it's a lot of work
Yeah.
for. Uh, I mean, the pay is all right, but it's like security's not there, benefits are not there. I mean, thank God for Obamacare. Um, and I probably just lost you a few viewers just from saying that. But anyway, where's art school going? You're asking a big question from me. I don't feel nearly informed enough to tell you that. I can tell you this: online education can work if it's done right. I learned how to paint Photoshop online.
Right, with
You know,
schoolism.
with Bobby Chu's class. Yeah, Bobby's an excellent instructor, and he had an excellent format. And you got to keep in mind, this is like this again. This is 2007, 2008, and I mean, he wasn't using YouTube. He had all of his own like everything servers, everything. So it can work, but you have to adapt it. I know that. I feel like you're probably still going to see. I don't know if it's going to. I can't see how it can change. You're going to have like traditional schools, and you're going to have um, online schools. You know, I do think like the need for like college certification, I feel like it doesn't butt up well against the needs of art schools and art students because they're required to like, they're required to take certain class that, sometimes they take classes just because they have to fill a requirement that doesn't really help with their industry.
But I will say
When
this.
I was in art school, all the adjuncts like yourself would say, your portfolio is your resume. As long as you have a strong portfolio, and they were the ones working like yourself. So it's like when we had a big question as far as the industry, we went to the adjuncts. Not to say that the full-time teachers, professional educators didn't know, but, they're the ones that were the go-to. So I guess the question really is, do you see yourself staying more like in that realm of, I'm always going to be a freelancer, I'm always going to be an illustrator, and I will teach, or do you see yourself transitioning full time to teach? I mean, these are questions I'm sure everybody that teaches asks.
Real quick. I don't want to. We actually touched on something really, really important here, and I want to just have we're going to come back to that question, but I think it's important. And if you've watched this at all, you know my stance on art school, the nature of it being extremely expensive, and the return that you're getting in terms of possible prospects being fairly low. That doesn't mean art school is bad, especially if you have a lot of disposable income. I think there are better art schools and there are worse art schools, and you probably should do your homework. That being said, I do feel that between programs like Lightbox, Artisticon have to put it in there. I don't want to bury us, certainly. Smart School, Miracola's, Illustrator intensive workshops. A combination of those two can really give you a strong foundation, especially if you begin to touch on atelier training. However, depending on where you went to school, how invested you were in school, there might be some value in some of the other curriculums that exist in a college degree. Certainly, it doesn't hurt to read a little bit more, to experience other types of novels and literature beyond just what you like, right? So maybe if you're forced to do that, you'll be able to expand your horizons. And so even though I am deadly against, I'm not deadly, but what's the right word? Adamantly against, art schools costing $60,000 a year. That's absurd. $240,000, after 4 years, even if you have various scholarships for an unguaranteed job, is absurd. But, if you could get a college degree and still become a great artist, and there's many people that have done that, right? Jim Lee is like a good example of that, within the commercial world. I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. I think there could be many positive outcomes to being degreed and having an incredible art education, however you choose to get it. Whether that's art school, whether that's an art college that's an accredited college, not just an art school, but like an actual university, or whether you go to college, get your degree, and then you end up in an atelier program and then working your way up through there. There's a million different ways to become a good artist. I just feel that there might be some really important opportunities in college or at a university that you might not get if you choose not to go that way. There's no magic way for one person or right way for one person or another, but I felt like I needed to say that, not to like say face, because I really truly believe that there is some educational value and some personal growth value to a college experience. It's just the cost that really gets me. All right, so he was talking more about where you see yourself going, whether you're staying a freelancer. Sorry to interject, everybody.
No, that's fine. I mean, gosh, I just really wish I had something more coherent to say about it. I mean, personally, my only concern about if I had the full-time opportunity, it would be super, super tempting. It really is. I can't tell you what the answer would be. I just can't. I mean, especially having a kid now that I'm responsible for.
Sure.
Because it's great to have that security. But one thing that concerns me is complacency.
Mm-hmm.
Complacency. Because I don't want to be I don't want to be settled. I never want to be settled. I just want to constantly be hungry for the next thing to continue to grow. And I don't want to, the biggest failure I can imagine in my life, if I were to truly feel like I failed, is if I woke up one day and realized I'm exactly where I was 10 years ago.
Mm.
I had no changes. I never took a chance. I never experimented, things like that. And that's the problem with like having like a super secure job. It's a great thing. There's so many benefits to having a secure job. But how do you play a mind game with yourself to maintain that hunger and that humility and that need to chase? I don't know. And the other thing that I've noticed, and two things I've noticed about education in general. I just want to talk about education in general, especially as artists. I really wish we taught, this will sound crazy for a minute, but I really wish we taught like fan club management 101. Like being a freelance artist, you have to get used to the fact that your goal is to find people who love your work, i.e. fans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I'm one of many artists. I'm not the only one who became an artist partially because I don't deal with people. You know what I mean? The pencil and paper does what I tell.
And you were a fan, right? You didn't want to deal with people, and you were a fan. So you saw some art, you loved it. I want to do that.
Yeah. So how do you, we have to teach. I make a living telling young artist students how to become better. And that's great, but I have to remember to tell them that your work also has value as it is.
Yeah.
And how do you teach a student to develop that mindset of I want to get better, I want to grow, I want to become better than I am today, but at the same time, what I've made has real value that needs to be honored and respected as such. There's a reason why there's always another crop of artists who will do cards for a certain gaming company for $200 a pop.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I will never go back to that. Yeah. So there's that. So it's like, how do I teach them to value their own work? I don't know.
Well, I think there
also has to be a market for it, though, too, right? The value, the idea of perceived value is so arbitrary. In just about every culture across the world. I mean, there's a couple of discussions that have to go there, that have to occur, right? And those are not only how do we perceive ourselves and our value, but then how do we get everybody else to perceive what we created or what is being created by artists is having value, and how do we then establish that? And unfortunately, the gallery way is not the best way to do it, because that's really about investment, and maintaining the high price range of your investment. Illustration's tough, right? Now you're in an international world, where it might cost somebody, like myself, I might put out a quote for $1,500 or whatever. I'm just spitballing. And, somebody working in another country, some other place, because the international nature, could come in at pennies on the dollar because the cost of living is much lower there. So we're dealing with a lot of different things, and that's actually a really interesting conversation, but another day.
Also, I think you bring up the notion of complacency, and I think the young artists of today see all this imagery around them on Instagram and TikTok, and I think there's a little bit of an overwhelming feeling they have to be celebrities. And I don't think that's always the case. There are artist celebrities, and then there are working artists. Like, I'll see this wonderful artist I've never seen before. I'm like, why isn't this guy a celebrity? Or why isn't she a celebrity? It's all about their mindset too. Is that what they want? If you're going after fame and riches and things, I'd say, first of all, don't go into art.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like
Get
playing
lucky.
the lottery. Now, some people have some, really strong careers, but they also work at their marketing too. It's a combination of being a business person as well as being, great artists, and some have agents, so, but,
That's
like the
what I did.
gallery scene, they take quite a big commission, so they're working a lot. So, there's all different avenues. And I try to say to the fledgling artist, or, don't get caught up in the, commercialization of it all, because quite honestly, as you're saying, there's a self-worth. Don't feel like you're, there to be commoditized. Although we are making art for a commercial aspect here in illustration, but you can still look at it as though, you're not, you're working hard, you're learning, you're creating artwork that will not only benefit your own persona, but the world out there. So that, one of my instructors back at Arc says, every piece I do, I think of, I have one day to live. It's like the last day to live, and I'm going to put my all into my piece. And that, that was kind of something that stood
intense.
out to me back in art school.
That's really intense.
Someday he's gonna be right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're all heading that way. We can't stop
Yeah.
that. But it's a good mindset, because it's true. We don't know when our time is. And, I don't want to be sitting watching a B movie when it's my time. I'd rather be doing something.
Depends on the B movie, I guess.
Yeah, it depends
Or
on the
B
B
movie.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
You were going to get back to something, Sean, something we talked about earlier, and it totally
Oh,
slipped my
hold on,
mind.
let me bring my face up here. Sorry, folks.
What's that?
I said, let me bring my face up here. Sorry, folks.
Okay.
You remember what you were going to bring up? Because it
Oh, at the end,
slipped my mind.
well, so we were talking about wordiness, right? And within teaching.
Oh,
And I agree that there's this line with, and I mean, I've never really seen you teach, so, I don't really know. So, but I feel, though, that sometimes nomenclature is important. And having a universal, consistent nomenclature is really, really important for clarifying ideas, clarifying what you want somebody to do, as well as being able to articulate specific factors. For example, if someone walks in and says, oh, your tone on that is wrong, and another person walks in and says, oh, no, your value on that is wrong. Now, if you've been around enough, they both mean the same thing. But if you're a student and you're a freshman and everybody uses the word tone, and one other guy uses the word value, or switch it, right? All of a sudden you're going, what's going on here, right? And I feel that, within the other arts, like music, right? Like you have a crescendo, a diminuendo, right? You have a recapitulation, a modulation, right? You have A 440, very clear. You have A flat, A sharp, right? A B flat major scale is a B flat major scale. Now it does change, right, if you're moving into concert pitch instruments, right? Because concert pitch instruments are pitched differently. But a B flat major scale, played as a whole is slightly different. But as on that one instrument, it would just be a B flat major scale. So I guess the point I'm trying to make here is I think if we as artists could agree on a universal set of tones, and it's not going to happen, right? It's a pipe dream. It would be far easier for us to articulate the things that we want out of people or what we're trying to express. So if I told you right now, go pick me up some cadmium red light. I have 3 tubes right now, and this is actually true. 3 tubes of cadmium red light. Gamblin, Winsor Newton, and I think Rembrandt, which I never use. No, I'm sorry. The Winsor Newton I don't use. And each one of them is a very specific, different red on a traditional color wheel. We're also very specific, different red on a Munsell color wheel. But if I told you to go pick up a 5R, 612, right? So you would know right then. I was like, hey, get a dead red at that 5R, right? And you would know, okay, I need it at the 6 chroma, at the I need it at the 6 value, at the 12 chroma. So super intense. And actually, I could even go pick up a Munsell chart and go, hey, this is the exact red I'm talking about. So there's an example where having a very concise and exact language could really facilitate, talking about art in a way that everybody could then begin to understand. Because a lot of times we could throw out words like using the word like a grisaille, right? That's very specific, and I actually think it's very helpful because once we determine what that word means, if you tell someone go do a grisaille, well, then the next question is, well, in what color, right? Now, at one point, it probably only meant gray, but now you can do it in burnt umber or whatever. It doesn't matter. But then they could go, well, what color? Oh, we'll do it in burnt umber. Well, what burnt umber? Well, but if I gave you a very specific color in Munsell, then the conversation's done. Yeah. So, okay. But that's all. Well, so I'm just pointing.
The reason why I said what I was saying there earlier is I had another instructor who taught. She taught crochet, making the crochet, which is a flayed figure.
No, it's a fancy word, but very specific.
Yeah, there's a fancy word. So it's a statue of a human figure with the skin removed.
And
so
you build really from the inside out. So each layer you build on top of muscle masses. So everything from deep tissues to superficial tissues to subcutaneous fat, and then skin.
Yeah. Well, we only worked on the muscles. We never built the skin out there. I think we did bones. We did the full skeleton, and then we did muscles only on one side. Sean says your battery's exhausted.
Yeah, they happen once in a while. That's all right. See, you can enjoy the bars. I'm still here.
Sure this plane didn't come collapsing. And so he did a very amazing job of teaching it and making it very clear. And I think more what his concern, and it passed down on to me, was I never wanted to use like bigger terminology just to show off how smart I was.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it was. It was just more important for me was clarity of ideas. And I did use those words. I did teach them all those words. I just always made sure I said, this is what it means, by the way.
Right.
Because the last thing I want them to do was be overwhelmed by all this terminology. They have no idea what it means, just so I feel smarter. You know what I mean? So, I just want to make sure it's about the students. That's it. I just want to make sure that I do my job. They feel empowered and educated, things like that. So,
there's a fine line between being pretentious, and then just being, a good instructor. And just trying to figure out what that balance is. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, pretentious is one of those negative stereotypes about artists.
Yeah.
Again, that is kind of.
Is it?
So sarcasm being the other. So
well, there's a whole bunch. I'm also an alcoholic. No, I'm not. I actually don't drink at all. But throw that in there.
Yeah. So.
Well, tell us about this piece coming up. The
Hold
detail with the sun and the Mercury, was that part of the?
Let me just go ahead and get you to that actually. So hold on one moment.
That was actually for Ravensburger, the postal company. What happened was they had a bunch of paintings that someone else had been working on for them, and it just didn't work for them.
Okay.
I don't know who this artist is. I'm not here to knock anyone. They just said they pulled the plug on that project. They weren't crazy about the art that was coming out.
I love this piece, by the way. This is one of my favorite
this one,
pieces.
yeah.
Oh, I love
Talk
it.
about the solar system one. No, this one was this one here, the six-winged dragon. Final Fantasy VII fan. You know, I don't know if you play Final Fantasy VII, the first Final Fantasy IV, PlayStation One. That's totally the fans will know what that is. That's the game. That's the Bahamut Zero, six-winged silver dragon. Okay, let's just call it what it is. I just wanted to challenge myself, see if I can paint reflectivity. And I actually went to Michael's and bought a toy dragon and spray painted it in silver. But yeah, that was a little bit of me fanboying over Final Fantasy and a little bit of me giving myself a really heck of a technical challenge, i.e., painting silver, metallics, things like that.
I see your dinosaurs behind you. And I'm looking at one, and it looks like looks like the brontosaurus and a mastodon combined into one figure from this angle.
Yes. Yeah, I have a ton of those. By the way, the graphics on my end. Okay, that's better. Okay, it's like I couldn't even see anything.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So, but you were asking about the solar system one too.
Yeah, that was coming up as a detail.
But point being, like,
I can grab it. Let's go on his website and take a look. Take just a minute. One moment.
Yeah, it was fine. No, I could tell about it. It was basically after I did all those dinosaurs, and they really liked how I did space. So they said, we have this collection of space themed stuff that we kind of had to pull the plug on, and we'd like you to resurrect it. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I liked science as a kid. I mean, I memorized all of the planets, all 9, when I was a kid. And I found it hilarious that people needed like acronyms and like, the phrases to memorize. Like, because I just memorized them straight up. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. As like when I was like 8, I already knew all those. Like, you know what I mean? I was just so proud of myself with that. So I never forgot about it. And so like it was one of those things where I just built a solar system map exactly as I wish I had it when I was a kid. So there it is. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Little behind the scenes magic there.
I'm sorry?
Is that some behind the scenes magic there? Just getting it up.
Yep.
So it includes like, a lot of the major moons.
I was going to say the moons are there. Yeah.
Yeah. So
are those asteroids by the sun or meteors?
Yeah, they're just going in front of it. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, it kind of does this kind of like corkscrew coming out. You start with Mercury on the right, and then you kind of draw a corkscrew going counterclockwise out, and you kind of trace the planets. So it's Mercury, and then you go up to the left, Venus, Earth, Mars, come down to Jupiter, Saturn, go up to the right, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto.
Is Pluto a planet again?
No, it's a dwarf planet, but I'm old.
Yeah. I wasn't sure how they reclassified it these days.
Yeah. As someone pointed out, if you want to call it dwarf planet, you still have to say the word planet. So that's good enough.
Interesting.
So, and this painting, by the way, is only possible because we're post 2015, and the photos were sent back from NASA. Yeah. So if there was any earlier, I would have to do some random ball with like I don't know what. Yeah. So yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts or tips for young artists, or even
how long we have?
Well, we got as much time as you want to put into it, and then we want to make sure we hit up your
Etsy
and your website. So we got 3 things left.
Seriously, for young artists who might want to become artists, number 1, be sure that you really, really want it. I really do believe this industry goes to the ones who want it the most, not who are the best. You don't have to be the best one coming into the art school to be the best. You don't even have to graduate being the best. You just have to want it a lot, okay? And that you're willing to sacrifice a lot to get it, okay? So having as clear of a vision, doesn't have to be like clear of like, this is exactly what I want. It helps, but let's put it this way. If you don't know exactly which video game studio or whatever you want to work for, it's not the end of the world. But if you know you have to create art, um, jump on the adventure. Number two, uh, you're going to get naysayers. Just get over it. Just understand you're going to get people who will tell you that it's a bad idea. You will see another U.S. News and World Report uh, coming out saying like never like art school is the worst thing you could ever do with your money.
Every year there's one.
Especially the artist that
There's
created
always
the
another one.
graphic. Right?
And maybe Sean has a point with what he said earlier. That being said, is it possible that maybe it's more of a American college system problem than like the students' problem? That these art schools have gotten so expensive.
No, I agree. There's
Oh,
no
yeah,
one
yeah,
particular reason why. Well, there's several reasons why. There's no one particular answer, and I don't just say art school. I mean art programs in colleges. If you're paying $50,000 a year and they can't say, "Hey, we're going to guarantee you a job walking out that door," and you have $200,000 worth of debt.
Yeah.
That's a problem. That is a really, really big problem, and we really need to rethink, how we. I don't even. Let me
Let's
just
put it
stop
this
there.
way.
Let me just stop there.
Let's put it this way. If everyone who wants to go to art school decides, you know what, I'm not going to go to art school because of that reason, the fallout would be tremendous.
It would.
I mean, I just think about the American economy. If you got rid of Hollywood, if you got rid of Marvel Comics, you got rid of DC Comics, if you got rid of Netflix,
But I'm not saying you have to go to art school to get there. But you wouldn't throw that out, right? You'd still have ateliers. You'd still have online programming. You'd still have ways like the workshops.
Destroy the industry. Just like Thanos, like snap your fingers and destroy the industry. Just make it go away. Think about how the American economy would just sink like a rock.
No,
how much money does Hollywood bring in from China every year? Like, there's a reason why the Mulan is like the Mulan movie, the live action one. There's no music in it. People are like, "Why is there no music? Why is there no Mushu?" Because Disney is thinking we have to make sure this movie does really well in China. It can bomb here in the States, and it can do, but if it does amazing in China, they get their money back easy. Like people like the arts is so. I mean, New Orleans without jazz. Okay, I mean, come on. Like, seriously, you're gonna tell New Orleans no longer play jazz? Are you absolutely out of your head? But anyway, just getting back to it. Also, like, if you're gonna go to art school, you're gonna get somebody in your family who says, "Oh, that's a terrible idea." But if that person who's telling you don't do it, you'll never get a job. If that person is working a career because their uncle knew someone at this industry that they had no idea had anything to do with, they need to shut up. You know, like, it's like majority of people, I think, if you ask most people how they got the job in any industry, usually it's like they fell into it.
Yeah, it'd be like me telling a doctor how to do his job. I'm not a doctor. I don't have any experience in that field. I have no business telling that guy how to do his job.
Or that he shouldn't. Yeah. Just because you can't imagine it doesn't mean it doesn't work. I mean, it happened with Christina. She was working for a company for 3 years designing giftware. It was a giftware company. Right. Like she drew the giftware. And when she first started there was seriously another product manager who came up and saw what she was doing. It's like, I didn't realize somebody designed it. Mm-hmm. Well, where did you think the snowman ornaments came from? Did a snowman poop it out?
Clip art. Clip art. It just manifests itself from the ether. Just pops up on web.
I'm telling you, house elves. House elves. We do all this work, keep the infrastructure going, and people don't even realize we exist. Yeah. I mean, I saw it on NPR. They released an article right after the pandemic happened, like about how artists have lost so much income, and people were like, oh, the artists are the definition of a non-essential worker. It's like, if you said that and then turned back on Netflix, shut up.
Yeah, say that about the designers that are working through your interface on Facebook or Reddit, or all these guys that are spending time, just hours and hours and hours. And I also think it's important that while we're having this conversation, we are very specific in our non-specificness. I can never say, what is it? Specificity?
Specificity.
Got it. All right. And that is, when we say artists, I'm pretty sure we're also talking about designers. We're
Yeah,
talking about,
anything.
The arts in
industrial
general.
designers. I mean, just in general, arts in general. And by the way, you are correct in that seeing, with the reduction of arts, has had a major impact on large economies. I think New York couldn't be a better example of that. I through my girlfriend, know somebody that works on Broadway. And I've only met this person, but she does costume design and costume fabrication for a very major play, musical. And what's important here is like she's not working right now.
Yeah.
Now she also learned how to code and did that for a while as well. But that entire industry, there are just tons of people, stagehands. It's not just the actors, but you have stagehands, people that are designing the shows, to the people that maintain the facilities, to the ticket processors. There's an entire industry that has been, eviscerated. And that goes to show you just how precarious our given financial situations are. And I don't think that's really the area for our podcast. By leaps and bounds, we should not even be there. Right? But it definitely illustrates, or is a prime example of how removing the arts could destroy an industry. And you are correct in that if you pull away art schools and you pull away art programs from universities, or people just stop going. And by the way, I can say the things I say because I know they won't. Kids are always going to go to art school. Adults are always going to go to art school. And universities are going to work to keep their art programs strong and as full as possible. But if they were to go away, yes, you would lose. Instructors would lose their benefits. They would lose their salaries. They would. The schools would be worse off for it because they wouldn't have a cultural base with which to help, build the higher educational experience. So they can say, hey, our people are cultured. Our people understand these things. So I totally get that, and I agree with you. It's how can we find a balance, and how can we fix a larger problem that's really putting a lot of young people in debt long before they should be.
Yeah. Again,
And
that's
also,
more systemic.
another thing I think with art students is something to keep in mind, or someone considering art school. Not everyone has the same path. Some people want to
Absolutely.
be the gallery scene. Some people want to be a cog in the wheel, an inker for Marvel, and they loved it. That's all I want to do. When they found their calling. So everybody has a different path. As far as not everybody has to be an entrepreneur.
That's life, brother, right? We all
Yeah,
have our own
yeah.
paths. And don't,
Yeah.
I think this is actually a really important topic, and we got to get back to Pia's words of wisdom, but I'm going to drop a word of wisdom, and that is don't expect, and this comes not from me, but my good friend and mentor, Neil Carlin, and that is do not expect your path as an artist, and do not measure yourself by other artists. You are not Norman Rockwell. You will not be where he was. You may be there sooner, you may be there later. There's a lot of factors that made up Norman Rockwell that you don't have. Sorry, guys, I talk funny because I just had a tooth pulled. That made Norman Rockwell who he was. So don't measure
Can I
by
say something about Norman Rockwell real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was an art director at 17 of a major news magazine. Like the economy and the population densities, things like that,
Oh yeah.
made that possible. That someone who's not even legally an adult can be an art director at a major news magazine. That just wouldn't happen today. Just the way and not because there's someone who's no one's as talented as him. Not because there's not someone there who could fulfill that job. It's just no way in hell any company today would hire a 17-year-old to be an art director.
Well, they probably couldn't anyways because the hours would violate minor laws.
So. Exactly. That's it's systemic.
Yeah.
Not because I can't stand it sometimes when, like, one thing that concerns me is we always talk about, like, look at the masters, the geniuses, the masters of the past. And it's like, there's no one alive today. There's plenty of amazing talent. I'm a little concerned sometimes when we talk about the masters of the past, like, because then does that put into the maybe the subconscious mind of students today that you'll never be as good as Norman Rockwell. You'll never be a master like the people of the Renaissance. Why not?
But also the Renaissance had patrons of the arts where they painted for years and they had apprentices for years till they got to where they are, and that's the total devotion of that's all they did, and you had the
Again, that's a system thing, but if we don't teach that, the students think there's something inherently wrong with them as people.
Right.
So that's what worries me. It's like,
so I have a funny anecdote, and so part of the jobs, and I've talked about where I've worked in the past, so I'm not going to keep beating that that nail with the hammer, but part of making an artist profitable for a gallery or even themselves, is you got to create this illusion that somebody's like a demigod in art, right? I never use reference. I don't use masking fluid. And next, you're standing next to a painting that has masking fluid coming off of it on the museum wall. There's one famous Brandywine guy whose family says that, and there's this painting, and it's just the masking fluid just coming right off of it. And it doesn't matter, right? I mean, the idea is you're trying to elevate this person in a form of sort of marketing to demigod status, because then it raises the appreciable value of the painting. And I think we have a tendency to do that with characters of the past, right? It's easy to create demigods out of them. And so one of the stories in Florence, if you take tours, if you go to Florence, is right next to Uffizi, next to next to it, there's this courthouse, or what was sort of like the major place where all the business went down. And they'll tell you there's a little face like carved into a stone. And there's no doubt the provenance that Michelangelo did it, right? I think everyone's pretty sure, like, okay, we're 99.9% sure Michelangelo did this. Provenance seems to be all there. But I mean, it's possible it's not. But the tour guides will tell you, well, Michelangelo, he came out here drunk, and then he turned around, and I've heard this 3 times, and he turned around, and over his shoulder, he carved this face into a rock, a big, large chunk of rock that's embedded in this building, right? It's part of the walls, and it came out this good, and he was so great that he could do it drunk, not looking at it, over his shoulder, as though somehow he had some sort of affliction, and he was, Rubber Man, and it's absurd, and right, and people are going, yeah, that's amazing because it's Michelangelo. In the meantime, I'm sitting there going, that is the biggest line of BS I've ever heard. He came out, he did some graffiti. I get it, that's awesome. I like him even more. He was a bit of a, he was a rapscallion, if you will. I mean, not as bad as Caravaggio, but like he was a grumpy man. By the way, if you ever get a chance to see the frescoes in the ceiling on the ceiling of his house, he has himself giving the finger to a pope, which is hilarious. Or it might have been a cardinal. So that's how. So I got to appreciate a guy like that. But folks, you're going to tell me that this guy carved a face into a really hard piece of rock that's been there for however long, while drunk, in the middle of the night, over his shoulder? Like, no, that's just them creating a story to make Michelangelo seem better. And I think that's part of the fun of the art world is, some of our stereotypes and the things that come about. It makes people appreciate sort of the bombastic nature of, characters. You have to create characters, otherwise they're just not interesting. It's like a good story.
Yeah, very true.
But is that kind of bombast? Is that an American audience thing? Because it seems like
I don't know.
Big Bamboo,
it's in Italy.
like kind of like that sounds like something an American needs, whereas like maybe someone like more culture. I'm not gonna say which culture.
I remember that America started from the Europeans, so it could be a European thing. I think there is that notion of what's the term I'm looking for? I can't even think right now. My mind's mush. I don't want to say where you're over-grandizing something,
You do
to
it with
make
sports
it more
figures, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're just human.
Yeah.
And God forbid, I'm not saying, but if they were to get in a car crash, they're not going to magically jump out the sunroof of their car to avoid death, right? They're still going to have all the same afflictions. They just are really good on a football field or something. So we just have a nature to really escalate and push these illusions. And I think it's just part of us as being human. And it's fun.
Well, it's also, look at Hollywood. We have really created an illusion of these celebrities, and just because they're a celebrity, they're now experts on politics and medicine. So they come out on their Zoom meeting, and this is what's going. Okay, well, that's unfortunately our president's a celebrity, and he appeals to that mindset of, this is what it is because they package it up so well, where the truth really doesn't matter sometimes. But that is America right now, unfortunately.
I'm not going to talk about the president because I want to cut the mic.
Yeah, that's the quickest way to
start.
Get some torches and pitchforks at your doorstep. But back to your words of wisdom, Piya. You were offering some really important words, and I liked how you were talking about not measuring up to other artists. Your own path, that's what it is, your own path. What other words of wisdom do you have for people that are beginning this journey or well into their journey?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like I've said a bunch of it. All I can say is self belief, or even faking that self belief. I think is, and I say that not because I have a ton of it, because sometimes I don't have as much as I want, and sometimes I feel like I can see how it might have negatively impacted my career when I didn't believe in what I can do as
I think
much.
they have a fancy term now. Well, I don't know, maybe not. If this imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
this thing where I think everybody has doubts, and to put a silly label like that, I don't care how um, skilled you
Can't
are
see
as
you
an
there, man.
artist.
Oh, welcome back,
Oh,
Chris.
sorry, I was scratching my leg there for a second. Sorry, I have a mosquito bite, and I've known some really great artists, and they still say, well, I have my moment where I'm doubtful, like, what the hell am I doing? It's like, how
Yes.
did I get here? It's like, am I really doing this? And how many artists that are so um, phenomenal kind of fell into art after college. They weren't even real artists in the sense of and I shouldn't say real artists. They weren't lifelong artists from a child. And that always amazes me. He's like, I kind of fell into being an artist. I'm like, really? It's just like, it's everybody has a different path and a different time. And also, it doesn't you're not on a timeline. I always want to say that to people. The 4-year college thing may not be you might go 5 years, you might go 6 years, you might go at night, you might go back in your 40s or 50s for your master's degree. There's all different possibilities. And, I think as you get older, you get a little wiser and you get a little um, experience with how life works. And like you said, you can have a family, you can have other interests. I think it's about living a well-rounded life. I think if you completely seclude yourself and work in the studio all the time, um, for me personally, I would go bonkers. I need human interaction. I need to bounce ideas off people. I think we're seeing that in these times where people are going a little batty if they can't see their family or friends or go out and hobnob. I mean, for artists, we go to these conventions, or I think it's like for those who like sports, hanging out at the bar. It's to let off steam, it's to commiserate, it's to live life.
The
Um,
Dionysian, the Dionysian
yeah,
aspect, right? You want to be part of
yeah,
a group,
yeah,
concerts, church, whether you believe or not. That's not even what I'm talking about. Just the fact that you want to feel that you're a part of something bigger, and then you
right,
fall back into your Apollonian rule, your life, that moment where you're the individual, and then you vary between the two.
absolutely.
But I got one more story to tell real quick
Sure.
from my art school days, and I was working on this drawing. This was like by the time I was deep into like my major, so I was doing a lot more stuff out of my head and imagination, things like that. And I was having trouble with this piece. I don't remember what it was, but it was very stressing me out. I wasn't happy about it. I just remember it was a two-headed giant, and like these two heads like had their own minds, and they were trying to eat the same shark, and they were like, I was trying to show them like they were fighting with each other, trying to
Hmm.
swap this dead shark that they were trying to tear apart with their teeth. And I don't remember what it was, but I remember something was really making me mad about it. And I went to see my instructor about it, feeling really down. And she looked at it and she just burst out laughing. Like she just was so tickled by it, you know. And I don't remember anything else of the interaction, but what I do remember the most was simply it taught her laughter taught me something super important that day. Because technically speaking, I'm pretty sure there was something wrong with that piece. But the technical issues did not matter because it made her laugh.
Right, right,
It affected her. It was not perfect, but it was effective. And I don't mean effective, effective. Hey, like had an effect on her,
right.
and that's become an artist to affect people. Don't become an
Yes,
artist
that's
to be
awesome.
number one. That's what worries me the most. That's what I've seen. We like without naming names again. We had a Harvey Weinstein moment in our industry not that long
Yeah,
ago.
yeah,
Okay, people in huge positions of power and influence abused it, and a lot of bad things came out of that.
But
And I
some
think
good things too, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean, there is
but
at least the eyes are open to what is a problem. It seems to be a problem in a lot of industries. So
yeah,
bad things happened, and some good
Well,
things came
why
out
did
of
it
it, which is
happen?
sad. I agree. Why does it have to happen? Like, can't we all just be
What
decent people?
you know why it happened though? I think this is why it happened. Because when people become big and successful, they forget that their purpose is to use that for the betterment of others, and they start to turn that
As
benefit inward.
Stan Lee said, with great power comes great responsibility in
Yes,
Spider-Man. Very
yes,
true words.
yeah. And so I think sometimes we talk too much about how to become successful artists. I mean, that's what this whole talk was about.
Yeah.
But maybe we need to start talking more about like not how to reach success, but how to when you are on that mountain, how to keep going and how to be successful in a positive way.
Right.
I mean, how to be success at being successful, I guess is the word. I don't know how to describe it.
Well, I have a
You know?
solution, and you have to have a piece of cake every day. So you're like, well, that's horrible, and you look like you eat a piece of cake every day, and I probably do. Not right now because of tooth, but so no. If you look on Artisticon, you'll see under my bio it just says that I try to add value to everybody's life, right? And that is, I want to make a lot of money, yeah, but predominantly, I hope that I can add value to the lives of others, and to my family, and to my daughter, and to my friends, and to people that I meet and that can experience life with. I hope sincerely, and Chris and I have talked about this many times. I've used these exact words that I can add value, something that I do, whether it's art or something like this, right? It provides something of benefit to make that person's life better. And, just keep moving forward there. So, but I was talking about cake. So here it is. You have a piece of cake every day. Do something creative every day. Do at least one thing to act on your goals every day. Be kind and empathetic every day. And then eat and exercise. So,
Yeah.
cake. Going to write a book now.
Be a decent person. Be
Yeah.
a decent human
I
being.
want an autograph. Yeah.
I mean, I love that you got right behind you. We the people. I mean, that's
Oh,
that
yeah.
speaks
That's
volumes.
signed.
Yeah.
That's signed. It
That's
was right after the election.
yeah.
The Shepherd Ferry,
Yeah.
like Trump was inaugurated. I was like, fuck this. Spending a ton of money on this thing. So, it's my way of like getting it out of my system.
Yeah.
So, but by the way, again, that's like a piece of art that like is a little different from me, and that's why I like it because it makes me try to think of art more laterally. So, yeah. So there you go. Hopefully, yeah.
So before we wrap this up, we're going to go to your website, and then we're going to go to Etsy, and we're just going to plug it because ultimately,
I have Redbubble too, just to be extra confusing.
I would really, really, really hope that one day, all one person that's watching this, no, that's kidding, we actually have a couple, but some kid's going to go on the YouTube channel, is going to look it up, he's going to see your work and go, wow, I want to be like Piya. And then he's going to go, oh, I got some money, I'm going to buy a Piya poster. So let's go check out your browser and check out Etsy so people know how to get to you.
All right.
So this is www.piyastudios.com. Any pieces of art you want to point out on there? Anything you're particularly proud of, or that you thought you did really, really well?
Gosh, I'm gonna try to maximize this. So honestly, I haven't even looked at my own website in a while. Scroll up a little, please. Okay. I have to update it. So, I don't know. I don't really have one that like, oh my God, I gotta tell you about this. I can tell you this.
Look at that. That's awesome.
That was a challenge to myself. Like, can I make something that has every color in the rainbow and it's not absolutely garish?
It's cute.
I just want to use every color and not be garish. Those flowers are real, by the way. Those flowers. I mean, they don't glow blue, but they are transparent petal flowers.
That's awesome.
And I have to do that.
I love how his little legs wrapped around the branch and his arms.
It's based on
crested gecko.
Yeah, it was based on a gecko. I remember that.
Flying gecko, that would be kind of cool.
It was like basically an idea of like rainbow dragon, like D&D.
Like a flying squirrel.
I did not know that.
I'll take that. So let's see what else. There you go. thumbnails. Okay, there we go. Yeah, this is some of the more of my client work.
This is cool. The Star
Wow.
Wars one?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
that's awesome.
Animal Thrawn. Yeah, I redid him a little. I wanted to make him more imposing, so I gave him that cape. And if you look at the on the inside of the cape, that's the Chimera, which is his Star Destroyer. And if you look at the holograms, they all have Imperial script, and they actually all like say like actual Star Destroyer names that are legit.
Oh, really?
No kidding.
So
That's
I
cool.
don't remember much about them now though. Yeah, this was done for Chris Fitzpatrick, he was the first client I ever met out of art school. He has a company out in Indianapolis called War Gods, and so the Medusa, the Pegasus, that's all him as well.
Wow.
He was I met him when I was still in art school. I went to a convention, and I recognized him because he was in White Dwarf magazine when I was a teenager, and he looks exactly the same, like 10 years later. So we had a conversation that way, and I've been working for him since. Fantasy Flight, yeah, that was one of my earlier ones. So
Wow.
So this is www.piyastudios, piyastudios.com, and there is a link here to your Etsy store, right?
yes,
That's Redbubble.
oh, that's Redbubble. Yeah, sorry, the print store is the Etsy store. This is my stuff store.
Okay.
So
all
you can
right.
see there's like stuff that like I haven't like you haven't seen my website really. The T-Rex playing a ukulele things like that.
Space Tyrannosaurus mug. I love it. I love it. I'm gonna buy that.
Okay.
No, I'm dead serious. I'm gonna get it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm trying to touch more on dinosaurs, things like that, as you can see. So some of these are just like little putting my toes in the water. So they're not really like the Tyrannosaurus skull. I just traced it on. It was honestly just I was trying out a program on my iPad, Adobe Fresco.
Yeah. What
So
do you
it's
think
I
of that?
just used dinosaur skulls. So that's why it's like kind of like yeah. And then if you go on my print store, yeah, that's the Etsy shop. So that's where all the prints are sold, and the calendar. So
Wow. Look at this one.
that was based on I think I saw a drawing of Arthur Rackham, which was,
Mm.
and so I just wanted to do rainbows.
It's intense. A lot of chrome in that painting.
Thanks. So the clouds, I think I was looking at a lot of art of Lilo and Stitch. So all the backgrounds were done in really beautiful watercolors. So
It's cool. I never know how to navigate Etsy. Let me get it. I can't. And then my back button's not working for some reason. Okay, where are we? Am I back to the Etsy? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Sound like an old man.
So it's all PS Studios, everything like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. It's all there. I'll be honest, YouTube I just kind of use to teach my class, so there's not much to look at there. So someday I might be able to start doing more videos, but it's just time is not on my side for that kind of thing. Right?
Sure.
So
Well, hey, this has been a
great
great
body of
look.
work.
Yeah, you've got so much on here, and you know what? There's a lot to learn from all of this, and I think there's a lot to learn from the words of advice that you've dropped and the things you've said. So I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
oh, thank you for the opportunity. It was great talking to you guys. It's good to see you guys after a while.
Yeah. And we're wishing you well in your new semester coming up at Moore.
Thank you.
And,
Need it. So
well, yeah, I know these are trying times as far as trial by fire.
think of it this way: someone's going to write their history dissertation based on this year.
Yeah,
Keep
a memoir.
Yeah.
Trial by
I feel like,
pyroclast.
I don't know if you remember Doogie Howser. He used to type his day-to-day stuff when he was if there was a show in the 80s, what's his name? The actor from
Neil Patrick Harris.
Neil Patrick Harris.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was a kid doctor at 16, and he would write his memoir every day.
Did we just date ourselves? Because Peter was like, wow, what are you guys talking about?
He was like on a
I know what Doogie Howser was.
Windows 95, Not even before that. What am I saying?
Yeah.
This was 86, so it was probably
DOS,
like
with some sort of over
DOS
shell.
Yeah, not even Windows 3.1. Oh boy.
Yeah, just Tandy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it says Trash 80. CI 99. Commodore VIC 20.
All right. Hey, this is totally fun. I think
Yeah.
we've probably tired people out. Piya, thank you very, very much.
But it's a good tired. I'm energized. I'm going to draw something tonight.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
We'll post it on Artisticon, the
There you
Facebook
go.
page. All right. Hey,
Sounds
everybody.
good.
See you around. Say goodbye.
Thank you very much, Piya.
Thank
Say
you.
hi to the family. Hug to the little guy.
I will. Take care, guys.